So we got Chris Weiss on here, an Army veteran, owner and founder of Buckets of Bread, as you can see, 100% veteran owned. Really interesting product. Welcome, Chris, to Hellman's Kitchen, the inaugural podcast episode for foodies, especially veteran foodies like yourself.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's really cool to finally get to meet someone from the Coast Guard. Throughout the time, you guys were always just sort of there, but I've never actually met one in person. So I'm super stoked to be able to see you.
Cool. I know we always call ourselves the unicorns because there's not many of us out there. That's cool though. So yeah, Chris, so welcome to the show and everything. Tell us, I know you served in the Army. How many years were you in the Army anyways?
Oh, way too many. So after high school, I joined in 1990. And then after Desert Shield and Storm, I found myself serving in Germany. And then I had a little bit of a break. I got out and ended up being able to stay in that country and experience it in my young 20s and just travel around and basically create my own foreign exchange student program. But it was more with an emphasis on partying it up out in Europe. So after a few years of that, I did come back and I ended up into the reserve program. That would have been like around 96. And I eventually found myself working with the civilian side of the DoD while also serving as an Army reservist. Cool. And eventually I had put in a packet and was accepted and ended up at Fort Benning, got commissioned as a young second lieutenant in my 30s. And I eventually got onto what's called an AGR program, Active Guard Reserve, and finally retired out of that system in 2018 from Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. So being from Iowa, my last duty station was just about 4 to 5 hours away. So that was like the perfect distance just to call it quits.
Nice. That's awesome. So you started off as an enlisted guy and then went the officer route later on. How was it making that switch? Was the big differences there?
Well, so when I first decided, okay, I'm going to do this, it was really more along the lines of I had this packet that I'm going to submit to go from E6 to 7. And then I had this packet that I thought, well, I could go to the officer route, so I'll turn this in too. And whatever comes back first, I think I'm going to do that. So I was just like trying to shoot for opportunities for advancement. And the one that came back the fastest was the acceptance into the OCS program at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Nice. That's awesome. That's cool story. I've been meeting more and more Army people this past few years. I worked at Fordham University for a long time with the student veteran program over there, and a lot of Army guys and girls. So learned a lot about that program in the ROTC unit, and they get so much networking involved in the officer lifestyle, which is so neat. I figured out, and it's been interesting going to different events and seeing that side of things. So it's cool to hear from you as well as an Army officer yourself. So how's it getting out of the Army? How'd it feel? Did you roll right into living back in your home or what? How'd that go?
So basically the getting out process was pretty much just go to this week or two long course, and you sit in a classroom environment and you learn how to use LinkedIn and write a resume. Yep. So it was pretty much just that. And eventually I was invited out for a cup of coffee with someone. I picked up a small gig, but I found out it really wasn't just for me. Within like a year or two of that, then COVID started to come into the play, and I had just picked up a work from home gig with doing some review on some loan paperwork for a place, and so I just had this time on my hands where I was able to do something and then create this idea and evolve it slowly into something that I was able to launch, and that is this bucket of bread.
Yeah, so interesting. I was wondering, so as you know, I was a cook in the Coast Guard for a few years, right? And one of the duties at night for cooking, we had about 150, 200 sailors on our ship, right? So we'd have to do night baking. I always dreaded it, to be honest, because I think I'm more of a cook at heart. Like I don't like the measurements and the science behind the bread making. So how'd you come up with this idea? It sounds awesome.
Well, so as a small child, we'll go even that far back. So mom had always just brought me in the kitchen. She's like, all right, you're going to have fun, but you're also learning this skill that you're going to be able to use once you become an adult and you'll be self-sufficient a little bit better. So
Mhm.
I had fond memories of that. I was doing stuff. I eventually did become that adult and was cooking for myself. I became the guy that was the person that made the dinners. So I also found this way of baking different breads and things, and I would create these wonderful little mini loaves and bring them to fundraising events. And I think I was just putting them out for like $5 a little ball of bread, and people loved them. And I was eventually referred to multiple times as the bread guy. So for whatever reason, one day in August of 2020, the back of my brain was just doing its thinkings for whatever reason, and woke up dead in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and thought, holy cow, everything I've been doing, I could put it in a bucket and use it as a platform to help people. So I did some phone calls, reaching around, and it was feasible. So it eventually turned into a full-fledged LLC with a website and a location to produce these that are licensed and insured. And it's just now starting to be able to get recognized. And I can't wait to see it just go through the rest of the nation and have people try out my buckets.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great story. You know, as a veteran entrepreneur, to hear another person pursuing what, you know, that bulb that just clicked. It's amazing to hear, right? I mean, I got your product next to me that you thankfully sent me here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this guy? So if I'm looking at this bucket of bread, how do I use this right here?
So the whole thing about it, the what it is, so it's my blends of certified organic flours.
Mhm.
I have a traditional white, a hearty wheat, and a 7 grains to choose from at this point in time, with others in planning. But these blends of certified organic flours are placed in 100% recyclable buckets. And when you get it home, you add about 3 cups of lukewarm water, and you can mix that up right into the bucket if you want. Just hold on to it real tight and mix it all good in there. But I prefer a stand mixer. It's super easy. Just slowly add your lukewarm water into that, and in a few minutes, it's done. It's that simple. Once it's all good and mixed and nothing dry is left, you just let it sit for 2 to 3 hours. And by the time you come back, it'll have risen to the top. And you now have over a gallon of dough. It's about 4 pounds of it, and it's just ready to use. So you can reach in, grab what you want, turn it into bread or even pizzas, cinnamon buns, garlic knots, breadsticks, pretzels, bagels, naan, really anything you can imagine using the dough for. There's also recipes on the website to choose from in case you want to go beyond just bread. But what's nice about this dough and the bucket itself is that it's now like a meal prep kit for baking, because this dough will last in the refrigerator up to 2 weeks. So you just pull out your bucket, grab a little handful, turn it into whatever you want. You could essentially have fresh bread every night for dinner if you really wanted to, or really whatever you want to make. But there's ingredients you can pronounce, so clean labels. There's no preservatives. There's no fats, no oils, no dairy, no egg, no sugars are added. It's just the certified organic good stuff. And then on the back of the bucket, the instructions are right there to get it into a dough and at least have some quick breads made right away if you don't want to go online. But really, the whole thing about this, the best part about the bucket of bread business itself, is that I've earmarked at least 10% of all profits to go towards charities that are combating hunger and fighting food insecurity in America. So I'm trying to create a business that has a good deed in every bucket.
Yeah, I really love the mission there, and it seems like too, you know, back me up on this if you agree, but a lot of us vets run the same circles, right? And a lot of us run our own businesses. There's always some kind of charitable contribution, maybe, or maybe it's just the core mission of helping something, right? And maybe that goes back to us initially signing that dotted line and join the military. I don't know. What do you think about that? Let's unpack that a little bit. What do you think?
I think if we digest that a little bit, it's
Mhm.
just to our core values, like you said, but
Yeah.
we really want, and we seem to have a sense of serving the community.
Mhm.
And I think that that's what sort of sets the veteran community apart from just someone that's out there to pull in a dollar and
Mhm.
all costs, you know. So I
Yeah.
think it's just our desire to help.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and it's great to see, you know. So let's see. You named a lot of stuff. You're making me really hungry. What's your favorite product to make out of this bucket of bread?
So typically, like if I'm in a hurry, I just usually grab my bucket, a handful, I squish
Hmm.
it out. And at the stove I have at the house, there's this little griddle that's between the four burners.
Hmm.
So I just throw it on top of that with a little bit of uh, basil pesto.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I'll get it to go up. It's just a nice flat bread. It's almost like a little bit of a grill top pizza, if you will. So it's just super fast, super easy. So that's just like the go-to quick, gosh darn it, I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, really some of the sweet things that I've really enjoyed doing, where I get to sprinkle them with some powdered sugar and stuff like that
Oh,
is
nice.
just a delicious touch for the dough. Recently, the fun thing I did is I was frying the dough for February, since it's Mardi Gras season. So the beignets were
Cool.
made, and they turned out pretty darn good.
Oh, nice. That all sounds great. I wish we had a bunch of these like industrial sized buckets when I cooked on the ship, because then I wouldn't be spending so many hours at night baking, which is a pain in the ass.
So,
It's not my favorite thing
so
to do ever.
one thing I have done in the last order, so I ordered the buckets in bulk so that I could get
Mhm.
at least a decent price, and I could afford the 3,000 mark level at the
Nice.
thing. But I added some 5 gallon buckets to that so
Cool.
that I can get at least, I think I have like 85 gallon buckets that I can at least start testing the
Nice.
waters to see if anybody is interested in more of an industrial size
Very cool.
bucket of bread. But that's a few months down the road.
Nice. I love to hear that too. Cool. So where can people buy this bucket of bread? What's your website?
It is bucketofbread.com. It's this side. This is it right here, bucketofbread.com. Go there. There right now is a spot that in the checkout process, there's a button you can click. And if you click it, it'll take the shipping off. So you'll end up with $29.99 shipped anywhere to the United States for a clean ingredient, certified organic, around 4 pounds over a gallon worth of dough that is versatile and delicious.
It's a steal right there. That's
It
amazing. I
is.
love to hear it. Cool. And I got some fun news too. As I mentioned, while you sent me the bucket, I'm going to be experimenting with this on one of my upcoming episodes. I'm going to make some garlic knots, and along with some other good Italian food on there. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun with
Outstanding.
it. And you know what's
Awesome.
funny too? As soon as I mentioned meeting you, Chris, I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be chatting with the bread guy later. So it makes sense. You're the bread guy.
Hey.
Love to hear it though. All right, Chris. Well, it was a pleasure having you on. And you know, all of our viewers out there, help this guy out, help a veteran-owned business out. Go buy a bucket of bread. It's not too overpriced or anything. It's really good ingredients. It's gonna taste amazing. So go out there and buy some, you know.
Thank you so much.